And go ahead, Perry.
All right, great. Well, thanks, Morgan. Actually, I must say that when I was asked to participate in this, I thought it was a really cool idea, a great way to kind of spread it out over the season. And it's been great so far. I know the first couple ones that we had with Karen and Mike, they focused quite a bit on a couple of principles in terms of what happens when things go south and in general, but focused on videos and watching video and getting people's inputs, which is definitely where things are going now. And if you're someone that hasn't spent a lot of time looking at yourself on video, you need to, because it's really the best way that we can learn. But as I was thinking about it, what I might choose for a subject or want to discuss and do today, I thought I'd kind of change gears and make it a little bit more intimate. This is kind of a unique format in that while we're broadcasting to a larger group of people, and people can obviously listen to this in future on the net, it's really an intimate thing. I mean, it's more like a one-on-one kind of environment than it is, showing off in terms of a presentation to a large group of people, live. And so, I'm going to treat it a little bit more like a one-on-one discussion, and we're going to go through some things as I've been, traveling around. I thought initially about this in terms of, young up-and-comers and young guns. So I had the opportunity to travel, not only with FIBA, but even, just in Canada. And, then I thought about it more, and we really all have something to prove. It's not like I think that we're all 100% satisfied with all the games we get, or maybe you want that next best game, or the opportunity to ref tournament finals, or if it's college and university playoff time or provincials in high school, whatever that might be. And, as I sat in cars with friends in past weekends traveling to ref Canada West stuff, other places, we have lots of discussions about, young officials and new officials and people I don't know. And, discussing the next wave, kind of perceived strengths, what their weaknesses are. And, had the thought a few times that, really that this is an issue with that person. I can't believe somebody hasn't talked to them. They really need to, be filled in. And so I thought I could kind of take that tact with, this webinar, as we'll talk about, some straightforward one-on-one, you can call it mentorship if you want, sort of ideas about, laying down true things. I'm not trying to, share smooth words so that everybody sounds like it's always perfect. I thought I'd focus on some things that we can do to improve our officiating as a group, and really just get you thinking is what my hope is. I'm not about to suggest that everything I might say tonight is going to be revolutionary necessarily, but the idea for it is, just to have maybe that inspiration, that moment of some questions that you might have, just in your own mind. And obviously this gives you the opportunity, throughout this to type some questions that Morgan will ask as we go. And I encourage you to do that if there's anything that you want to ask, even if it's an awkward question. Let's treat this like it's a one-on-one and get out some good information and have a good discussion about it. Now, so I titled it "Selling Yourself," and marketing is easy when you have the best product. As I was trying to outline it in my mind, I thought taking the tact of a business model was one that I'm familiar with in my personal life, away from basketball, and in terms of PR and that kind of stuff, and so I thought I'd focus on that as a title. But as I got into it, I wanted to focus on a few other things that hopefully, like I said, will have some meaning and perhaps just get you thinking about some other things. First of all, I wanted to talk about performance, and in a general sense, it all comes from that we're in a performance-based business. We're constantly compared to ourselves. I mean, if you have evaluators looking at you, it's especially if you're newer to officiating, they might compare you to your last game, the last time they saw you. That never ends. Even doing it 25 years later, that's still there. For sure, we're compared to others, which I don't want to say is totally unique, but it's much like you are in coworkers' environments at work. Who's going to get the next promotion? Who's going to get the next raise? Who's going to be trusted to be a leader? Who's going to get the hard tasks because they, the boss knows that they'll accomplish it? Who's the complainer? Who shows up 10 minutes late and leaves 15 minutes early? These kinds of, what I'll call human traits bleed into our basketball as well. And, it's a real part of what we do. The fact is, the most important conversations we're going to have are with the mirror. And, I can tell you from experience that honest preparation is going to ensure the voices in your head follow orders. And that's really key for us. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. And, but on the other hand, is it when we can look in the mirror and be honest with ourselves, positive. We don't have to be negative all the time. I'm an optimistic guy at heart, and I think, the reason for self-evaluation is to improve, not to, degrade or abuse or break down or depress. So first, start with why. So why are you a basketball official? There can be lots of reasons, and I think you should answer that for yourself in a very simple sense. A lot of times people focus on the dollars of it, making money. I think most of us can agree in this country for sure. It just doesn't pay enough for that to be the reason. Maybe you want to give back. Maybe you were an old basketball player. Whatever those reasons are, make sure you start with why. If you can answer that for yourself, all this other stuff is going to fall into place, or at least give you the motivation to keep going. There's a lot of power in vision, and if you believe you have a reason to do what you're doing, I've used the word inspiration a few times, but having a purpose, valuing the time you're going to give, especially if you're taking it away from family. I think you owe it to your family, if you're going to be away from them, to be involved in basketball, that you do it to the best of your ability, because it's not always easy, to put family aside, and it really can be a sacrifice in a lot of ways. And secondly is then the what. What changes do you need to make to be a better official? I think some of them come across as being fairly simple. We talk about things like physical appearance. Weight tends to get a lot of discussion. Rules. Do you know the rules? In the recent post play, I'm not sure if that's been shared yet, but Paul DeHay has a kind of a little joking conversation about people getting together and wanting to make it a collaborative kind of thing and learning the rules. And just because it's open book this year and you have the opportunity to do that, you're going to be able to pull out your book in a game. And while that might get you through an exam, having the book beside you so you crack an 86%, you can go ref at nationals, it's not going to help you with a couple minutes left in a big game when you draw a blank and your other partners are looking at you because it was the three of you that were hanging out last week and writing the exam. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying we can't depend on our ability to get through an exam in an open book setting to get us through a season of basketball. Physical appearance is something I'll say we sort of dwell on and we sort of dance around all at the same time. Fact is, we're in an athletic business, and the more effort you can put into keeping yourself in shape, it's a lot easier to maintain shape than it is to try and get it back. But the other side of that is when we're talking about performance and being compared, if we're out of shape, that people notice that immediately. It's not something you can correct within a basketball game. On the other hand, though, if you are someone that is carrying a few too many pounds, you're not quite in the shape you want to be, if you make the commitment, and I understand it can be a significant commitment because it's not always easy, but if you make the commitment to get in better shape, maybe to shed a few pounds, improve your overall fitness, whatever that might be, your endurance, all those things, but especially weight. If you come in, months later or after a summer, and you've obviously lost weight, it's almost like it's an advantage to you because it's an immediate declaration that you're committed and want to do what it takes to improve your opportunities on the floor and ultimately your performance. And so, it kind of works both ways. But of course, if you're someone that's, especially I'll say the younger people out there, if you're starting to put on pounds now when you're young, not that it's great when you're old, but it's definitely a warning sign. And we're talking about senior officials, and when people are making decisions on who seems like they want it, because that's one of those things. People have to know you want it, and it's not just with your mouth. You can talk a big game, but it's the actions, the things they see you doing. The third thing is how. How are you going to make those changes? It's about commitment, action, habits, all of those things. The will you questions that you hear a lot. Will you do this? Those things are meant to give you a commitment. I'd suggest that if you identify some things in your game and you started with the why, and the why is going to motivate you and inspire you enough to be involved, the what and the how become important components to moving on and not only improving yourself as an official, but improving what we bring to a game as a group when we talk about participating in a game. A couple of things I wanted to focus on. I mentioned marketing in the beginning, and we'll talk about some things that are marketing. I want to focus on kind of the consumer model, an idea of who is your community of customers. So if we think about ourselves in terms of somebody applying a product or a trade, in this case it's maybe our ability to referee a basketball game, or I mentioned performance, whatever. Who is it that we're presenting to? Who's our community of customers? And so I think there's some obvious ones. I started with the signers. We all have bosses, and the interesting part is we get to be a boss within a game, but it doesn't matter any level we're at, we got given that game. Whether you're at a high school or junior high level, especially if you're at the college university level, you're basing your performance, your product, to assigners. Assigners are in the business of identifying talent, and again, that doesn't matter at any level. Maybe it becomes more obvious at the upper levels, but when there's a kind of a fewer number of officials there. But the fact is, even at the high school level and junior high, they have to know they can put you in a game, A, because you're available. Well, that's a very simple logistics of it. But B, that you're going to be able to handle and do a good job, within that game as well. Your partners, partners are a big part of that. I don't think sometimes we think of partners as being customers. We think of them as being co-workers. But when we talk about presenting a product, building a product, they definitely involved. And obviously, players, coaches, spectators. I think that's pretty straightforward. But all of them are who we're marketing to. I'm not trying to use marketing as a punchline. I'm trying to use marketing as building a brand, building a product. The title I used was, it's easy to market if you have the best product. And that is so true, because if you're comfortable with yourself, you've built a good amount of skill, you're performing well, there's a lot more confidence and presence that comes along with that. If I sent you out into the world and I gave you the silliest product ever and I said go make a living off of this, it's going to be very difficult. But if you had the next iPhone and you had to try and sell it to a teenager, guarantee your life would be a lot easier. We've done studies, and 80% of businesses out there, 80% of businesses suggest and hold that they'll say that they provide superior customer service to their clients. So if you go out there, 8 out of 10 businesses will say, yeah, we give a superior level of customer service. And only 8% of consumers agree. That's kind of a disconnect, as you can see, people, and I think I can put us in that category. When you think about it as a basketball official, how many of us are out there thinking that we're just nailing it and providing a superior customer service, if you will, and all of those customers that I listed before, the assigners, the partners, the players and coaches, spectators, how many of them are going to agree? Now, obviously, we're coming at it for different reasons in competition, but it's very similar. And I truly believe that there's many of us that are just blind to the fact that we're not delivering superior customer service. And that's something that we can achieve. And when we do, I mean, it's a lot better for us personally. You're going to be more satisfied in your games, and your partners are going to be more satisfied as a group with you as well. Not only that, but the coaches and, of course, players and spectators by extension. I'm not suggesting we go out there and referee because we need the guy in the second row to be our next fan and waving a referee flag around saying you're the best. However, just being considerate of what we can do to participate in those games and deliver to people, I think, is important. So be a day maker. We use this term in sales, and when we make a decision on who to hire and put on sales floors, and being a day maker, are you making someone's day? And you do things out there that make it a positive experience for people to be around you. The idea of being a manager, we talk about being game managers a lot. It's a term we use, game management. But then, a manager versus a caretaker. A manager is somebody that manages the game. They're invested in the game. They do everything they can to learn the rules and work with their partners and be prepared physically. A caretaker is somebody that just, sweeps up the floor and makes sure the dust bunnies don't collect in the corner. It's not the same level of investment, not the same level of care, even though care is in the word. A manager is somebody that's more active and action-oriented. So be a day maker. Are you someone with whom people look forward to working? It's kind of along the same lines. Can you honestly say that you're building relationships with the people you're working with, coaches included, players included, your partners? Why would people look forward to working with you? Why wouldn't they? Are you coming in and being a day maker? Are you coming in there with, a different idea of what it means to be part of a crew? It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to mention this as well. When there are people that come in from out of town, or maybe you'll have the opportunity to travel, whether it's, again, high school, provincials, it's a little bit different scenario in a tournament because you're all together. But going out for dinner when travelers are in town, there is it's not stated, it's an unwritten rule, I'll call it, but there's an expectation to support those people when they come into town by spending some time with them afterwards. I'm not saying you need to do this every night, and I understand, again, trust me, I understand as well as anybody the pulls we have. But I'd say it's especially important when you're starting out because it's a good way when you're, I'll use the term younger official, but what I'm really talking about is a newer official because we have people that are a little bit older when they get started. When you're getting, into the college scene, into the university scene, going out with people and spending some time with them outside of the court is how they find out what makes you tick. We can talk about a lot of things in terms of your presence on the floor, and evaluators will talk about it, assigners will talk about it, assigners will ask senior officials their opinion on all of these things. These conversations are happening. So why not be there and be involved in that conversation? And, I think it's something that, is maybe understated. And it seems, maybe it seems a little silly, but the fact is, it's important to build those relationships. And you can learn a few things about games, and you can discuss a few plays, of course. But, just being, strong positionally on the floor or making a good call every once in a while isn't enough. You're going to hire people for personality, and then you're going to train them for confidence. And it's the same with refereeing basketball. And so I'd suggest that next time somebody's coming into town, at least one of the nights you plan to be there. Because if you can set aside the time to ref the game that night, I'm going to suggest that there, at least every once in a while, there's the time to go out as well. And focus on those opportunities, because when you get them, you'll develop a reputation of being a team player, which is important. Finally, in the day makers, treat everyone like a VIP. And I mean everyone. I mean the shot clock operator. I mean the dude that's on the microphone. Especially that guy. whatever, whoever is working, the person that greets you when you come to the gym, when she brings you the score sheet after, all of these things, and again, extending coaches, players, when you do that with your partners, you're going to be a day maker, and you're going to be someone people want to look forward to working. You're going to be somebody that people tell assigners, hey, I want to work with that person, and it's going to get you more opportunities, and you'll be looked at as a leader. I'm not saying this is always easy, but when you can make a sincere effort in these things, I believe it's going to translate into better performance on the floor, and it just brings a better vibe overall to the game, versus acting like the table crew is there, to fold your bed sheets and make sure you've got towels. It's, I think, a key and a very easy way that we can improve. Service is such a big thing. Serving, participating. If you haven't been involved yet at a local level in an executive, or there's mentorship programs that are, I would say, continue to build steam and are getting very popular, very strong programs. Participate in them. Now, maybe you've heard of the STP principle. It's the same 10 people principle. It seems like no matter where you go, it's always the same 10 people that are volunteering to do everything. We need to expand that. We have, I haven't seen the latest numbers, but I'm going to guess it's around 600 officials in Alberta. Plenty of opportunities to serve. And, even if you just get your foot wet in the beginning, it's something that is important in our game. And while we don't, obviously everybody's not going to be involved, it needs to be more than the same 10 people. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about, Morgan, who's the ABOA interpreter and, now the head of CABO and helping me with this webinar tonight. So maybe it's just the same Morgan principle, who's doing everything. But point is, take those opportunities, and it can be even evaluating to get started, or helping out if in a certain respect locally. We've heard this before, but sincerely enjoy the success of others. If we can do this, and sometimes it's difficult because I get it. We're in a competition business, so to speak, and while we're working with each other, and invariably sometimes you're in a scenario where there's only 2 or 3 assignments on the last day, and you're not going to get it. Sincerely enjoy the success of others. Do not be that person that doesn't get the final of the, whatever, 3A girls final, and so you pack up and check out and don't even stick around for the last games. That is just such, I don't even know what to say, it's just so distasteful, but it reeks. And that, all these things go up in smoke if you're that person. So if you're going to stay, if you're a ref in the game, you're going to stay so you can support the success of others. And if you can sincerely do that, I guarantee you're going to be a lot happier official. And I'll say, as a general note, having been around a lot of places, we're very fortunate in Alberta. I think, the vast majority of the officials and people I've seen are really sincere about this, and we promote and look for opportunities to give people and put them in places to be successful, but then celebrate those successes. And because we do that, I think is one of the real reasons we have such a strong group of officials in Alberta overall. And it makes for a healthier environment. And and at the end of the day we talked about the why in the beginning, and used words like inspiration and purpose and value. We're not going to have any of those things, if we feel like there isn't any point, and we're not being successful. Engage and collaborate. Engage is an active word. Collaborate. Be involved. I know sometimes it's interesting when you're young or newer. You might be referring to a senior official. It can be a little intimidating. I get it. You don't want to speak up because you speak when spoken to, or I'll give, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you kind of thing, and that's really not how it's going to be. We want to see you thinking out loud. We want see you asking great questions. We want to be able to answer those questions for you. We want to see the wheels turning, and invariably it's going to accelerate your growth and learning curve as an official. And on the other hand, if you've been around a while, don't be close to that. Be collaborative yourself. Be the one that's looking forward to answering those questions and offering some of your experience and ideas to others. And I'd say for anyone, not every idea is a great one. I'm not about to say I have all the best ideas, but one thing I was able to do very early was recognize things that were going to be positive in my game when I saw them in others, and then steal them. You pinch good ideas. And so the bottom line is, if you're going to accept mediocrity in your preparation and performance, you better be prepared to accept your mediocre assignments too. I'm going to close on this. Appeal to the VIP and you guys that are listening. At the end of the day, I've been very blessed, and I have found in every moment that it's worth it. Basketball is such a great game to be part of. But I think even more than that, the friendships and relationships you build are real. They're real friendships. And that's something to be said. When you put in the time and you sacrifice your effort and you commit yourself to something, it's good. And I use the word sincerely again. You'll build some lasting relationships that will be the best part of what you're involved in the basketball, and the front row seat for a lot of really cool action and athletes, and fantastically awesome environments, fans going crazy in packed gyms, will all just be icing on the cake. And I've really found that to be true, and I know many others have as well. Okay, that's kind of the end of my talking. I know I've done a bunch of talking over the last half an hour or so. What I wanted to do, though, and I mentioned this to Morgan as well, but I mentioned it earlier, I want to open it up. I mean, if anybody has any questions, and I don't mean anything even pertaining to my presentation, of course it could be, but if there's anything you're wondering, we'll just pretend this is a private conversation. I won't even tell anyone. And like I said earlier, even if it's an awkward question or something you've been wondering about, something you've seen, whatever it is that you haven't had the confidence to ask, let's get it out there. Let's have a real conversation, one-on-one, like we're doing.
Perry, it's Morgan here. So if
Yep.
people are interested and would like to type those questions in, that would be great. Perry, can you maybe just give us a little bit of sense for how you remember some of those opportunities when you were starting out in terms of engaging with older, more experienced officials, and what you did or how that helped you to improve yourself as a referee?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a couple of things that started for sure are, I go to games like that you're not refereeing. So, go watch college games, go watch university games. You can go as a fan and enjoy the games, of course. I've had many people, ask to be involved in pre-games. I've never said no. That's a great opportunity. Be in the dressing room. That's one of the beauties of what we're doing. You can go watch a game and be in the dressing room before and after, to hear the ins and outs of how it's going. It's kind of a different time. I would say in general, we're a lot more professional now than it used to be. And you probably support me on that, Morgan. There was a lot more animosity within crews. We do a much better job now of being partners for real, and not just partners for convenience. And but summer camps obviously are a big part of officiating life now. It allows you to accelerate your growth, be in an environment where people that are going to make decisions on you in terms of college or university games are going to be involved. And so if that's something that's in your future and you're not there yet, or you want to improve the assignments you're getting within those realms, I mean, you definitely have to do that. And I mentioned service, before, getting on executives and participating in providing good opportunities, for the people within your associations, that's a big thing to do as well.
I would certainly endorse those comments, Barry. I think the opportunity for up and coming officials today to interact with the people at the college and the university level is so much better than it was when you and I started reffing. Um, Definitely asking if you can come in and listen to a pregame or sit in on a postgame is something that is invaluable to officials. But also the thing you mentioned earlier about making sure that you take the opportunity to socialize with people. You'll learn a lot about refereeing by sitting around after a game in a facility having a pop and talking to people. They'll let you in on a lot of the little things that they do that they may not have time, during a game to talk about, or even in a clinic, and you can pick up a lot of information just from that opportunity, but you have to take the time and you have to make the commitment to be there. So if there are no questions, and I'm not seeing any typed in, but I'll just wait another minute or so if anyone has anything. This is 2 webinars in 1 week. That's not kind of the norm, and the next ones aren't scheduled till January. So again, if you have a question, this would be a great time to take that opportunity to ask. Okay, I'm trying to see how to let somebody in here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I guess you've got me on there. This is Jake. Sorry I was late. I had to referee tonight, and I got back a little bit late. So I only saw the last 10 minutes, but I guess, Perry, I'd like to have you expand on how do you show people that you're competitive and that you want to improve, and you've got the personal pride to really care about getting better and doing those better games, but at the same time being humble enough to accept the fact that you're working Saturday morning and not Saturday night at a weekend tournament.
Yeah, that is a great one, and I think this is going to maybe sound a little facetious, but I've been on both ends, and I can suggest that we all at some point will be on both ends of that. And there's no question you all want to be working Saturday night, working the final, whatever it is. But the strength in what you're doing is going to be how you perform and how you respond in those moments when you are crushed personally. And if you're working Saturday morning, everybody expects you to show that you're working a Saturday morning game. That would be typical. Why be typical? Why be average? You go and nail that game, and it's going to show people that you have character and you have value and all these things that matter. Because you can go ahead and kick the boxes in the corner in that 9 a.m. game and bark at everybody at the table and show the coaches who's boss. And then all that's going to mean is that you prove the evaluators right. Why not go referee a game and prove them wrong? And I found that was the best way to get out of that, because then they see what you're made of. And you know what? Sometimes you get certain games for lots of reasons. Other times it's justified. Sometimes maybe less so. But at the end of the day, man, perform what's put in front of you, and then and it's going to make you a better referee. Going to make you a better referee.
Perfect. I like that.
So Perry, I'm actually getting people out that are texting me questions because maybe I haven't got this thing quite set up, and you have the least technologically advanced person as your moderator, and I apologize. But one question has come in. So people often talk about officials having to be confident on the floor, and we know it's a fine line between being confident and then an official being deemed by the coaches or the players to be arrogant. what would be some ways when you've worked with people where you've seen where they've been confident and that's been a good thing, and maybe there's been times where you've witnessed them and they've crossed that line and it's actually not helped the crew?
Yeah, well, I talked about looking in the mirror earlier, so that's a good thing because I'll do that right now. It is always a tough balance, okay, because confidence is an important part. And I know personally for me, I need to have a little bit of an edge, just physically, you know. I needed to, when I competed, when I played, because I was more focused. The other side of that is when I was a little too relaxed, meaning I was trying to calm myself down a little too much. Not that I was, crazy, but just when you're trying to, show everybody that you're just, you got this, and that's all. It's almost you look too aloof and disinterested, and that can be dangerous too, because then people, it's like, well, he doesn't even care. He doesn't want to be here. All these things that we talked about, we don't want to be in the 9 o'clock game. And unfortunately, sometimes you learn that by crossing the line a little bit. But to answer your question, or the question that came through, when have I seen it? You got to be really acute and be honest when you see responses in people. If something you said or did causes a really poor response, you need to get that out of your game or recognize that it was your actions that caused that response. I think about, I'll use that term daymaker again. Are we walking people through this game? Are we like personal shoppers where we're helping people get through this game and where they're personal, trying to direct them in the right paths and give them a positive experience overall? If we can do those things, more often than not, we're going to build a repertoire that allows us to be, find that right kind of path for ourselves, if that makes sense. Otherwise, I think the two things that really I see naturally that cause people, when arrogance hurts the game, are when people want to make calls, especially late in the game, just because they can, that they wouldn't make earlier in the game to prove a point. I think that's dangerous and can really hurt the game. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's about performance on the floor, and really allowing the execution and performance of the players and the coaches, decide the game. So sometimes we just make a big mistake. I'm putting that aside. The other thing, though, is where you really see it is within the crew, because if you can't talk, positively or humbly and truthfully to each other as a crew, you can't possibly exude that to the rest of the world. And so you need to be able to accept it when you blow a call that your partners are going to talk to you about it. You need to accept that when you reach out to your primary and blow a call, your partners are going to talk to you. You should want that. And when you can have positive discussions and things that come out of that, I mean, that's where it goes good. If you're like, nope, closed-minded, you're not going to talk to your partners, what's their problem? If you're that official, that's when it breaks the game.
Perry, if I could pass one more. This is my texting thing is working here. So another question's come in. He said, it's easy to give good service when things are going well. Do you have any tips for giving good service when things are going sideways? I mean, you've kind of done those in general. Maybe, some things you've seen practically in games when things have gone sideways for you?
Yeah, okay, things that have gone sideways. A couple of things I'd say. One is, I'll focus on service for a standpoint. If you're going to serve somebody and it's going sideways, you need to listen. Listen first. And that's the most important thing after it's gone sideways. The second thing is you want to recognize what caused that to go sideways and take some ownership of that, and to recognize that oftentimes, and in fact it's been my experience, the vast majority of the time, is that we missed opportunities to make corrections that would have steered us away from that dark path. And especially in the basketball that we're seeing most of the time, that almost 100% of the time is the case. There are moments that you need to recognize. And so as a group, have the courage to recognize a moment, and if you missed it, you don't miss the next one. And again, that goes back to communicating and having a comfort level with each other as a crew. Because if you're going to be closed off to each other, you might just sit back and watch the world burn. Whereas you've got to be willing to accept some responsibility for that, not to say there was nothing we could do, because I would suggest that's very rarely the case.
So it's about 9:41. I think that we kind of had set that as our general goal for the amount of time that we would have the presentations. So again, Perry's really provided some great information tonight. Again, he's been very open about the situations, and I want to thank Perry for giving up the time tonight, and I would like to thank everyone for participating. It's been another opportunity to have our top officials speak to us in a manner that gives us the opportunity to learn on a short-term basis and not have to travel, and that's turned out to be a real positive thing. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody. If you know people who didn't get to hear the presentation tonight, remember it's on the ABOA website in the future, and that will be sent out either through Arbiter or through your local president. So again, Perry, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for listening, and this concludes the webinar.
Have a great night, everybody.